has everything.
Bumping and banging.
First off, Big Boy, I gotta say, I've interviewed a lot of people, many people, and I would have to say that this is a pleasure to have the honor to sit down with you today, brother. For those who don't know, and for those who do, this is my first chance having a sit down with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and thank you for coming and just sharing your time with me, brother, with us. Thank you.
Thank you for the honor and the privilege of being a part of your show.
I appreciate you.
I've heard a lot about you and your show, so I too am very honored to be interviewed by Big Boy.
Oh, man. So what did you hear? No, just wait. All right, now we're here. Of course, there's a reason why we had to come together, you know. And for one, we speak to a lot of people, and a lot of people at this point, Minister Farrakhan, they need to be. We got to kind of direct and speak to and get these ears open once again. And I see that you've been kind of, you know, making your rounds. We've been speaking. Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable, is talking once again to us. What is not the reason, but the purpose that you feel like, okay, there's another call to order that we have to have here?
We are at what is called in religion a kairos moment, when there's a confluence of circumstances that produce events that produce watershed moments in history. Right now, with the killings that are going on inside the inner cities, us by us, and with police killings of black men and women, and an even broader scheme of the government of the United States to kill human beings around the planet by 2 to 3 billion people so that the resources of the earth can be shared by those who feel they are worthy to eat the resources of the earth, and they look at the poor, the black, the brown, the Native American as useless eaters. So there has been a plan, and that plan is policy of our government to cull 2 to 3 billion people from the face of the earth. Recently, Zbigniew Brzezinski, the former national security advisor to Jimmy Carter, he said that the awakening of the masses of the people due to internet, due to iPhone, due to this great work of Mr. Steve Jobs and others, it means now because of this, we have transcended the control of the media by government forces, while the media should be free to enlighten the masses and keep the masses apprised of what the government is doing or is not doing. But the media now pretty much is controlled by a governmental apparatus and by special interests. So the masses of the people are being fed what government is pleased that they be fed. But because of internet, because of men like you and Charlemagne and others and Sway and men that are willing to spread a truth that transcends governmental manipulation, that means the masses are awakening at a pace that they had not considered. So Zbigniew Brzezinski said, today it is easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. So the killing is actually going on. It makes the killing of us by police, that's really punk stuff, because they're killing us without our being aware that we are being killed through food, through the terrible diet that we are living and eating under these fast food places, putting the little farmer out of business. So big corporate farmers now are producing food from genetically modified organisms. So a company like Monsanto or DuPont and Syngenta and others, who are really the big money people, they have bought up many. And so today I'm the one that's honored to be here to speak to a people that need to be awakened, so that the 23rd Psalm of David is real. We walk in the valley of the shadow of death. And the problem is, you think the Lord is your shepherd. But if we don't know how to protect the life that God has given us from the various poisons that are being poured on us and into us, then the Lord is not your shepherd. But if the Lord is your shepherd, you are guided today how to save your life, so you can say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. So I'm honored to be your guest and to be able to speak freely to our people, yes, to the Hispanic community, yes, to the American people, yes, who are subjected to the tyranny of government that is gradually taking away all the rights that the Constitution promised, not to us, but to the well-to-do, so that 99% of the people are being controlled by 1%. So we represent the 99, and we want to talk to the 99 so that we might come together in unity and stop the march of evil against us and others.
Let me ask you this. And this probably may sound like a little, like, why is this question? With Farrakhan, with the great nation of Islam, you could kind of just back up and just let everything kind of go astray. Why do you feel it was necessary for Farrakhan to come out and say, we need to take these blinders off, we need to start looking at certain things? Why did you feel that it was necessary for Farrakhan to do that?
See, I've been doing it, yes, all along, but after 20 years ago at the Million Man March, when a black man could call for 1 million black men and nearly 2 million showed up, they realized that Farrakhan, being on television, being interviewed by some of their best minds, and those best minds could never handle me or the arguments that I presented, so they saw me growing in actual power by putting me on television. So when I would go to the Forum in Los Angeles, 20 to 25,000 people show up. At Madison Square Garden, there were so many people till they were sitting in the aisles and whatnot. And this is because they allowed me to speak on television. And when they allowed me to speak, black people who always want a champion, and they didn't see or hear cowardice in my representation of our plight and our struggle. So they realized they had to do something. So after the Million Man March, they started spreading a rumor that Farrakhan is the Antichrist. Then the churches that I went into before the Million Man March, I couldn't go back in again. They stopped me from going on college campuses where I could speak to our young people. And the college presidents, you all know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you, if you're not careful, you are made into big Uncle Toms that are guardians over a plantation that you call college. But if you're not educating our people to come out of there with a skill that would allow them to create what we beg the white man to give us, then you're not truly educating our people. Let me give you an example of this. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I think I was invited to Clark College. The university had a course on engineering, and one of the students in engineering invited me to the class. When I went to the class, I spoke. At the end of the class, the professor of that class came up to me and said, Farrakhan, this is the last time that we will have engineering on the Clark College campus. He said, I went to the president and I asked him not to stop the engineering courses. And he said, according to the professor, leave engineering to the white people. And they even closed down the international relations course, because as a black man, we are an international people. We are all over the earth. So to cut off international relations, which connects us to all of our people around the earth, and then to stop us from engineering, which allows us to build a reality for ourselves rather than begging the enemy to make us a part of his reality. So sometimes the college campuses are not as free, not as productive, not as well guided as they could be, as they should be. So I'm making a shout out to college presidents. Don't let the fear of money and the desire of those who you get money from make you into a second-class campus that offers really nothing to your people that would allow them to ultimately carve out a free black nation.
When you look at those 20 years, how far have we come? What's the difference between those 2 decades and us going back to Washington? What will the purpose and what will we try to accomplish from going back to Washington 10-10-15?
The Million Man March accomplished many different things. We didn't go there to petition government. We went there to atone for our lack of acceptance of responsibility as men for our women and our children. We are the natural leaders of our community. But when the enemy brought us into slavery, one of the things that he did and was successful at doing was breaking the black man. And once you are a conquered man, a broken man, then your woman is the booty or the prize of the conqueror. So he had freedom to break us, but then to introduce himself to our women. So my color started coming up, and light skin. Then they put the light against the dark, and the curly hair against the kinky hair, and one who lived on the hill, the one in the valley. You know, the Willie Lynch thing.
Yes, sir.
So now we at the Million Man March began to accept that responsibility. We sent black men first, join a church, a mosque, a synagogue, a place where spiritual values is being taught, because we need that. Second, join an organization of your choice that is working for the liberation of our people. And third, register to vote that our vote may make a difference. Well, I got a call from SCLC that their phones were ringing off the hook, black men joining. Black men started joining the church. Black men increased membership in the mosques, both what you call Orthodox Islam and the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam. 25,000 orphans were given a home through the Million Man March. And many black men went back home and began to become mentors, entrepreneurs. And so that was a blessing, but the enemy said, oh man, if these black men stay in the kind of unity that we saw at the Million Man March, they'll be powerful enough to change the reality of their lives. And so after that, I went to Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. And what our people don't know, they treated me as if I were a head of state. They were so happy that they saw the Million Man March, which this had never been before. Nearly 2 million black men standing together, shoulder to shoulder, brother to brother, no swearing, no smoking, no drinking, no crime, just peace on that day. They were mesmerized by what God had blessed us to produce. And so I told them as I moved through the country for 2 years building, I said, don't you bring no weapon to the Million Man March, because I want to introduce you to the power of the Spirit of God when we are all together in love and accord and agreement with one another. And sure enough, the Spirit was so thick at the Million Man March that it really caught fire all over the earth. So when I went to Egypt, when I went to Sudan, when I went to all the other countries of Africa, they came out and said, man, we see the power of our kith and kin in America. And they were expecting us to become so powerful that we could influence the foreign policy of our government toward the third world. And unfortunately, we now have taken a backward step. We're not as strong as we could be. We're not as strong as we should be.
Why is that?
Because what I would call social engineering. When I was a young man, many years ago, I saw black men in my community in Roxbury, Massachusetts, going out in the morning to work with a little lunch pail. And I would see them when I came home from school, coming back from work. There was a family. There was church. There was community. There was school that we went to, and we became a family. We had gangs then, the gang on the hill, the gang in town, and we would fight sometimes, but never would we kill one another. But now, 40 years ago, I was in Africa, and when I came back, I read in the paper that the wise scientists of America were saying, don't invest in the inner cities because the inner cities are about to explode. So instead of investment in the inner cities, where there always were factories for unskilled laborers to be able to have a job, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough that we could have a decent quality of life that kept the family together. Then all of a sudden, factories closed down. factories moved out of the inner cities and moved into foreign labor markets, then we were left in the lurch if we didn't know how to create jobs for ourselves. We have educated people, but we allow others to come into our community to service our needs. And we have a barbecue pit over here, a little nightclub over here, or a little eatery over there. But the real money that is needed to invest in the inner cities is not there. So now in the inner cities, they call it a food desert, that no good food is being given to the people in the hood. Now you have Mexicans that are here. They're a little wiser, not as broken as we are. So you will see the Mexican stores. You will see 5 or 10 of our brothers and sisters from Mexico come. They come together, they live in a house, they pool their resources. The next thing you know, they bought the house next door, the house across the street, the house down the street. Then you see businesses in the Mexican community. And now the Mexicans, they are very thrifty and they're hardworking. So now they want to pit the Mexican against the black and the black against the Mexican. Here we are, 2 members of the original family of the earth. And the enemy got us looking at each other as the enemy. Now, you know, brother, you are not going to pick the fruit like our brothers and sisters from Mexico. You're not going to be in the vineyard like they are picking the grapes. You're going to pass that according to your thinking. So these are your brothers and sisters. So today, we feel it's necessary that we march, not march, but gather in Washington. And when we say justice or else, that's exactly what we mean. Because our Latino family wants justice. Justice because California was once theirs. New Mexico and Arizona were once theirs. Texas was once theirs. Colorado, parts of it were once theirs. So now they're called undocumented aliens. When the undocumented alien is the man that stole the country from the native people and from those who were here before they arrived. So here we are now. We didn't come here as an immigrant. We weren't looking for something that the immigrants came looking for. We came in the holds of ships. And now we built the country. The country is rich because of our slave labor for 310 long years, being sold from plantation to plantation. So most of our people, conquered people, we wear the names of our oppressor. We're not English, but we speak English. So we wear English name. And to our Latino family, you are not Spanish, but you speak Spanish. Because we were enslaved by a European called us Spain, and a European called England, and a European called French or France, or a European called the Dutch, or a European called Belgium, or a European called Portuguese. All these languages called Romance languages belong to the European that they imposed on the people that they conquered. It's time now for all of us who have been the victims of tyranny and oppression to see our relationship to each other come together in a solid wall of unity, then address the government. And the government will have to bow because our unity will be more powerful, as Elijah Muhammad taught, than an atomic or hydrogen bomb.
Minister Louis Farrakhan. Big boy, back with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We were just speaking about 20 years since the 20-year march. We're meeting on Washington once again. And when I fast forward to after 20 years, it seems like, where are our leaders now? You know, I see that you're coming out, you're speaking to a lot of us in radio, but sometimes we're like, okay, well, we'll let this person do it. We'll let this person do it. There's a voice that's either hip hop, that's celebrity driven. Do you feel like there is a purpose and we need to step up even more so to get the word out? Hip hop community, pop, whatever it is, the celebrities.
You are the most powerful community in the world, called hip hop. The rappers don't understand the extreme value of their craft. Now, T.D. Jakes is one of the greatest preachers, Creflo Dollar and others. They make wonderful preachings, and they are listened to and admired. But one rap from a rap star, he has more followers than many of the preachers combined. Rappers have followers all over the world, and their followers are the most intriguing part of the demographics. It's the young people, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 20, 25, 35. This is the power force of the nation. So how do you use the youth? President Bush, on the basis of a lie, took us into Iraq and Afghanistan. Many young people who love the country and have a right to love the country join the armed forces. Many of us that joined, we didn't join necessarily because we wanted to fight. There was no job offered to us in the inner city. A job was available in the service, so we joined.
The getaway.
Our Mexican family, they came across the border to their home. And they were told, well, we're going to give you a passageway to citizenship. So if you really want to be a citizen, all right, you come this way and join the service and do a few years in the military, and then we'll see that's a way to gain your citizenship. That's like ancient Rome. See, the Romans were so busy freaking. The Romans were so busy in these sexual orgies that they had no will to fight. So who fought for Rome? It was the slaves that Rome had conquered. So today, your armed forces is black and brown and poor white. So when they called you and sent you to Iraq, telling you that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, I was in Iraq 4 days before the bombs fell. And I saw Iraq. I saw Muslims, Christians, and Jews living together, none of them fighting and killing each other. I saw Sunni and Shia living together in peace. Even though Saddam was under sanctions, the people, they had rationed food, but everybody was eating. The lights were coming on and off. So all of a sudden, America says, this guy has weapons of mass destruction, and he's a wicked dictator, and so we got to go after him. But why don't you tell the truth to the American people? You saw the largest reserve of oil in the world in Iraq. So under the guise that we were making the world free for democracy and freedom, you sent us to death on the basis of a lie. And anytime your president is a liar, your Secretary of State is a liar, your people in government are liars, You have no right to accept their authority over you. You just give them authority. But today, when a liar lies and gets innocent people murdered, killed, slaughtered, and then when they come home sick and diseased and broken, you don't give them the support that they deserve. So there's a place for the veterans in our move to Washington, because our theme is justice or else.
Now, we were speaking briefly just about hip hop, our voice, the young, the people that we communicate with. Now we got social media where you could just press send and your message go out all over the world. When we get into the booth, or when I turn that microphone on in radio, or rappers get in the booth, or someone goes to sing, even with social media, do we have a responsibility that you feel when we step in to do our jobs, knowing that we're speaking to many people around the world? Do we have more of a responsibility that we kind of overlook?
Yes, brother. All of us who have influence in the lives of others have a responsibility to measure that influence wisely and use it wisely. The airwaves are sacred, because when you go up on the bird and you go in to the homes and hearts of people, that's a sacred commitment, because the mind is what you're feeding through the ear. That's why the Bible says, he that hath ears, let him hear, because the ear is the entry point for the word to enter, to begin to stimulate the consciousness of the mind. So the edutainment that came from the early rappers that were literally teaching black history in a rap with a beat. So the young people, which they tell you when we go to school, we don't have a span of interest that is beyond 5 or 6 minutes. But when you see these babies in front of the TV, they're staying there for hours playing games. It's that the education that they're being offered does not grab their mind and hold that mind and discipline that hand and foot, that they will listen and learn. Because what they're being taught is literally, excuse me, garbage. Yes, sir. So if I take a picture of you and me, or they take a picture and they show the picture to you and to me, who would you look for first? You'd look for yourself. I would look for myself. Then I'd look to see my brother. Oh, big boy looking good.
Yes, sir.
But when I go to school, I don't see myself in the education. So I'm not interested. You're going to tell me about George Washington? What did he do for me? You're going to tell me about Abe Lincoln? All your great white heroes. They're good to learn about, but they're not good for me. We have black heroes that gave wisdom to the world while the whites were in the hills and cave sides of Europe. You don't teach us about that because you want us to forever be dependent, begging you, groveling at your feet, and worshiping you as though you are a God beside God. So yes, we got a responsibility. And Brother Big Boy, let me say this. When the enemy saw that our children were getting knowledge through rap, the whites that began to own the prisons, I heard, met with the record executives in Hollywood. And the offer that they were given was this. The people that began to build private prisons. You don't build a prison not expecting occupancy. Right. So who's going to occupy the prison? the occupants of the prison was to be the black, the brown, the poor white. How can you get them into the prison? When you take away the jobs, then my brother Freeway Rick, who may be here, a great brother, he was introduced to cocaine, crack cocaine, but he didn't know that it was under the Bush administration when he was CIA head, and they wanted to stop the march of socialism in Central America. And the U.S. Congress would not give Reagan the money to do that. Under Reagan, Bush as his CIA man, they started bringing coke, marijuana, but mainly coke from out of Central and South America, bringing it into America, treating it. Now this is chemical warfare. So when we smoke the crack rock in the pipe, it goes immediately to the pleasure center of your brain. So with 1 or 2 hits, you are caught. And now that you can't get out of it, you spread it. So rock, crack, cocaine, now by Congress was given a heavier sentence than powdered cocaine. Now think about this. Then Bill Clinton, you know the boy that plays the sax, and you thought he was your first black president? He admitted the other day and asked almost for forgiveness for putting so many black brothers and sisters in prison over drugs, and 3 strikes, you're out. Now, I don't know why he apologized a few weeks ago. Maybe it's because his wife, Hillary, is running, and he wants to clear that kind of deck so Hillary can get the benefit of our vote. But I remember you, Miss Clinton. I remember you when my brother, Barack Obama, was trying to be the first black president, and you jumped in the race against him. And then you forced him by bringing up my name and telling him that he should denounce or renounce me. And you kept pushing him until he did. And some of those who loved me said, we're not going to vote for that man. And I told him, leave him alone. Vote for him, because it really wasn't him. You should look at those who were behind him to push him in that direction. And now it's your turn, Miss Clinton. And I remember what you did to my brother, Muammar Gaddafi, a man that built a country, a man that had a revolution that brought his country into prominence, a man that spent billions of dollars helping Africa to put up a satellite where our telephone calls to Africa didn't have to go through Europe anymore. They could go direct to our satellite down to Africa, which cut out $500 million a year that used to go to Europe. I remember you. And you made my brother talk up to Muammar Gaddafi and give him terms that he had to get out of Libya. Get out for what? He built a country that had no debt. And here you are, nearly $18 trillion in debt. And the only thing back in America right now is her military might and her willingness to threaten the nations of the earth who she borrowed money from. And if China called in the loans, and if Japan and other Europeans called in the loan, your government would collapse. Don't look at this as something that Farrakhan is just saying. This is a political season. And if the politicians don't answer the question of justice, you shouldn't give them your vote. You got to press them. Don't let them talk out of both sides of their mouth. You press them on what justice is for us. And if they don't respond to that properly, maybe then we should think about something else. Because both Democrats and Republicans, both of them have been our enemies. So we'll see what you do this year. It's justice or else.
Big Boy with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I want to circle back to, once again, just with hip hop. And the reason why I go there is because we have a lot of soldiers. We have a lot of great voices. We have a lot of people that have followers, not just in the States, but worldwide. And it's wild because we have a voice that sometimes I even sit down and I do radio, Minister Farrakhan, and I'm like, am I using my voice and my microphone for the right purpose? And in hip hop today, I love what's going on. I love the attention. I love what feels like the ownership, which, you know, we could argue this, a lot of people could beg to differ. But do you feel like with hip hop, once again, that responsibility, that where do you see hip hop right now with the voices and the soldiers? And is there a call to order that Minister Louis Farrakhan would like to see?
I would like to see artists for justice. Kendrick Lamar recently put out a beautiful rap, very intelligent. Kanye West. I met in this city with Snoop and Busta Rhymes, and we talked about how wisdom put in rap with the kind of beat that some of these young people are coming up with that drives the word into the consciousness of the people. You could take the young away from the misuse of them by governments that use their bodies and train them to kill, and then point the finger at who they should kill, making like Iraqis our enemies, or the Afghan people our enemies, or the Yemeni as our enemy, when it is America that created Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Now, if I had a moment just to say to you, when the Russians invaded Afghanistan, Osama bin Laden from Yemen was what they call a mujahideen, a warrior against the occupation of his land, or that land, by the Russians. When America saw that the mujahideen were willing to fight Russia, America gave them information, intelligence, support, and a promise that if they should dislodge the Russians from Afghanistan, America would help Osama bin Laden rebuild Afghanistan. They whipped Russia, and Russia went out of Afghanistan, and then the promise that they were looking for from America, America backed out of her promise to them. So now you made an enemy. You developed him. You saw him beat the Russians, and then your lying mouth turned him on you. Now you've done the same thing in Iraq. Saddam Hussein had a trained army. You went in there. You bombed. You called it shock and awe. These people didn't attack America. America attacked them. So you bombed them, And then when you conquered them, you dislodged the army which was Sunni. And you put in place an army that is Shia. So what did you do? You crippled the country, and you thought you got rid of Saddam's army. They were well trained. They were the Republican Guard. So while you were trying to get the new government in Iraq to include the Sunni, since they had been out of power for a long time, they didn't think to include the Sunni. So the Sunni started organizing. They're well trained. You went over there, you said, we'll train you. Sure you will. And you gave them the fine weapons. And then when those trained soldiers called ISIS or ISIL or whatever they called themselves, they started fighting. Your man that you trained, America, threw down the weapons that you gave, took off the uniforms, and ran away. And what you're dealing with now is the evil consequences of what you did to Iraq, what you did to Afghanistan. Your evil interfering in the internal affairs of nations now is coming back at you. So they're beckoning you to send some troops over because they want to eat you. You will not win against them. They are born to die, to get back at you for your evil to them. Yes, you supported a coup in Egypt when there was a democratically elected man from the Muslim Brotherhood who became president. You did not like him, so you did not even respond when the military threw him out of office and are now threatening to kill him. But you're behind it, America. See, this is why Jesus said, you shall know the truth, man, and the truth shall set you free. So I said to Snoop, why don't you make a rap? Because I'm finishing up my album now, and Snoop went and brought back a rap called Let's Change the World. Man, it was so great, so intelligent, so wise, so well done by Brother Snoop that I was so impressed, I made his song the title of the entire album, Let's Change the World. And that's what hip hop has the power to do. You're brilliant, you're craftsman. Have you heard of Loaded Lux?
Yes, oh yes, oh yes.
I was in New York, and Lux came to meet me, and we hugged and embraced each other. Because I heard him rap. Now, this man is a genius. He just stand up and spit it. And, man, he whooped everybody. Yes, sir. And so I said, brother, we got to get this work in. And he said, we sure do. Look, brother, we're a team. Yes, sir. The rap artists are the new leaders of the youth of the world.
So you don't denounce nor are you mad at today's rapper. It's like,
no, no, because they were given an offer of money to change into gangster rap. So as we changed into gangster rap and we started promoting the gun, they started feeding the guns into the inner cities because they know we wasn't going to use the gun to shoot them. So we started shooting each other. So the Crips and the Bloods were at it, and the police departments and others were sponsoring our killing each other. But today, what happened in Baltimore? See, when they said the young rappers and gang leaders came together and said that they were not going to fight each other, that's when they sent out a bulletin to police departments all over America saying that the rappers and the gangbangers have come together to take on the police. They didn't say that, but white folk knew that if we stop killing each other, they're going to have to stop killing us, or the guns will turn in another direction.
Hashtag justice.
What you
or
say?
Else.
Hashtag justice or else. Or justiceorelse.com. Let's come together, brothers and sisters. We don't have to fire a shot. We don't have to throw a Molotov cocktail. We don't have to act in a way that will bring down the wrath of these mechanized armies on ourselves. But if we are united, you and I, all of us, come together for justice, just like the rain fell in Texas. These were little raindrops that just came together and created a flood. Little snowflakes came together, and the planes couldn't fly. The tanks couldn't roll. That's what your unity will do. And when they see our unity on October 10th, 10/10/15.
Yes, sir.
When you see our unity that day, we want to connect with our Hispanic family, with our Native American family, with the family of the poor and the black, and those who's lost their lives for police brutality and our insane killing of one another, coming together to stop the violence in the inner city and press our government to intercede to make sure that we put an immediate end to police brutality and mob attacks. It's justice or else.
This was a pleasure, brother. True pleasure to actually sit down with you, to be in your presence. And I thank you for really just sitting down with us, man. We get a chance to have this exposed to millions of people. And if you can, we got 10/10/15. We got hashtag justice or else. We got justiceorelse.com. If you could look into this camera and let us know, what do we do from here on? We're in an election year. We got social media. We got eyes and ears. We're now in a position where we're turning the cameras on those that had cameras on us. If you could look into this camera and tell us, what is our next move or moves from now to our March on Washington 10/10/15 to eternity?
Thank you, brother. First, I can't tell you how much I am in love with your spirit.
Thank you.
And I pray that God will continue to bless you and this program with continued success.
Thank you.
We have to start this war because we are at war, whether we know it or not. This war has to be fought on two fronts. The first front is where we live. We have to find conflict resolution centers that will cause us to end our beefs with one another. We must sheathe the sword that we have in our heart for each other and begin to see our value to each other as brothers and sisters. Then we can turn our attention to Washington and the government of the United States of America. We are committed to do our very best, not just to go to Washington and talk about justice or else, but what is the or else? Because every time God sent a prophet, in the message of the prophet, there was a threat and a warning. So it is today. America, you don't have a lot of time to play with the lives and the destiny of a people that God has chosen for himself. We are that people. We are the real children of Israel. And you have it there in your scripture. If you would bless us, you would be blessed by God. But if you continue your evil plans against us, then God will step up the calamities that are facing you from north to south to east to west. Yes, we have to find the path of unity. So I would ask my young brothers and sisters, they've told you about Dr. Martin Luther King, the great man who had a dream. But they never assassinated our brother because of his dream. They assassinated him because he evolved in his development toward the position that the black man and woman of America must have land. He said economic withdrawal is what we should do when we are in pain. We have to redistribute the pain. So Christmas is coming, and we spend an awful lot of money taking Santa Claus and let him kick Jesus to the curb. They're waiting now for Black Friday so that right after Thanksgiving you'll be busting down doors to spend money that you don't have and can't afford, giving gifts away that make the corporations that don't treat us right, that suck the blood out of the black community and give us nothing in return. We can strike a blow and redistribute some of this pain that we are suffering. And to those of you who think we're robbing Christmas of what we generally do, you that have a Bible, go in that Bible and read the 10th chapter of Jeremiah, which the heathens go in the forest, cut down a tree, nail it down, deck it with silver and gold. Isn't that what you're about to do, brother heathen? You think you're really following Jesus when you're the most drunk that you've ever been on Christmas Eve? They sell more liquor during that time than in any other time of the year. They make more money from our ignorance so that they can say that the bottom line of all of these great stores is in the black while we are in the red. $1.3 trillion is coming through our hands this year. That's a lot of money, more than every country on the earth except 9. So said Dr. King. So the night before he died, he said we need to withdraw our money and use it wisely, pool it and use it wisely. So my advice would be, let's stop the beefs. Let's start organizing, and let's make up our mind that this Christmas we're going to honor Jesus properly. Pastors, I don't want you to get no big tree in your church, because that's not Jesus. That's the practice of the pagans before they became Christians. Study what I'm saying and see if you can prove me wrong. Constantine, when he became the Caesar of Rome, he also became a Christian, but he started mixing pagan practices into the worship of a man that they claim is the Son of God. So they were sun worshipers. So the days get shorter and shorter down to December the 21st. And those who worship the sun thought that their God was leaving them. So that's why they burned the Yule log. That's why they put these wreaths on the door in green and holly, because it represents the sun. That's why they put these balls on the Christmas tree, because they're real sun worshipers. And that's why they put the candle lights in the window. It ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. So I tell you what, this Christmas, tell the big Caucasian fella from the North Pole that you and your reindeers, you going about your business, because we're going to honor Jesus the Christ this year like we never honored him before. And how would you honor him? How would you do it? Look at the last commandment that he gave. He said, love ye one another, even as I have loved you. You don't need a gift. The gift is you. The gift is mom and dad and family and friends. So why don't we gather together and demonstrate that kind of love and talk to each other like family? Let the booze go in honor of Jesus. Uh-oh, did I say something wrong? You don't need any pot that night except a pot of good stew and soup and good food, and sitting around a table talking about the ones that came this year but didn't make it to Christmas, and enjoying each other's company. That would make a real Christmas, but after that, you'll see a whole new spirit in our community. I hope we didn't hurt your feelings, but if you study what I said, particularly the Reverend, you can lead the revolution. You can lead the pooling of our resources and keep that money in the hands of your parishioners. And maybe some of it will get in the collection plate on the next Sunday. God bless you all, and I thank you so much for the honor of being
Honor's all mine,
on your
Minister.
show.
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I thank you, my brother. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you.